Welcome to the Cemoh Marketing Podcast, where we interview business owners, leaders, or marketing professionals to find out their lessons and stories for success.
Welcome to the show, Mccallion. You are currently in a place called St Ives in the UK, and you're the CEO of Growtion. Have I pronounced that correctly?
You have.
Excellent. Yes. Now, I'm not going to make any St Ives jokes because there's about 1,000 dirty limericks that start, I once met a man from St Ives or something like that.
Various wives and so on.
Right,
yeah.
Yes. We won't. Maybe we might do one of those at the end. No. Get labelled on YouTube for over 18 content. Tell me all about Growtion. Tell me what you do.
Sure, and thanks. So look, great to be here, and it's been snowing over here. I think you're in the beautiful sunshine, so I'm very, very jealous. What I do over here in the freezing cold St Ives is Growtion is a business that's all focused around growth execution, which is what the name is come from, those two words smashed together. And it sort of started out when I got involved in some startups back in the early 2000s. So there's a business over here called primelocation.com, which is a property portal, luxury property. And I was one of 6 who helped set that up way back in 2000. And we sold that for £48 million in 2005. So that kind of got me the bug for startups and kind of high growth businesses. And I was really kind of interested in this, in why certain businesses went like that and other businesses did not. And, the same 6 people or the same 6 kinds of people sitting around the same kinds of tables in the same kinds of offices. And yet something triggered or some combination of events or processes or strategies led one business to go really well and one not. So I started off doing with a focus on that. I was then fortunate enough to be involved in realestate.com.au. Actually, they came over to the UK.
Yep.
And they started a subsidiary over here called propertyfinder.com, and that was great fun. I ended up running a magazine business for them randomly for a little while. And then a business called Zoopla came along. And Zoopla started up over here, and that is now the second largest property portal website after a business called Rightmove over here. So we built Zoopla again up from scratch. That was employee 11, and that sold 2 years ago for 2.2 billion. So again, I've just been really lucky to be part of some really strong growth stories. Yeah. And what I've done with Growtion is try and distill it down, all right, for SME businesses to what are the core components of a business that is able to be successful versus one that doesn't make it. And essentially, Growtion, we focus on 3 things. We focus on product, we focus on marketing, and we focus on sales. And that is pretty much how basic, I guess, is the idea that I've kind of boiled it down to. But within each of those broad topics, product, marketing, and sales, I've got 5 different elements that I look at. So it's at heart, I'm pretty much a nerd, and that's why I just want to boil everything down to is there a process? Can I find a process that does all this stuff? And that's pretty much where it came from.
And are you in your iteration now? Do you do businesses come to you and they pay you for coaching, or is it a membership thing, or do you take, do you invest time and take a share in the business? How do you fund yourself now?
Yeah, great question. So, there's kind of 3 broad categories of that as well. So one is pure consultancy. So I will, be paid for, either days on retainer plus success fee. So I spend a lot of time, I think probably the majority of my time, if I'm fair, in sales.
Yep.
So one of the things that you probably observed as well is entrepreneurs, particularly SME entrepreneurs in general, that they do it from a passionate point of view. So what they're doing is pretty much what their dream is often, not all the time, but often. So the product side of things, they kind of know they kind of understand mostly what they want to do. And what we do at Growtion is just kind of shape that a little bit. In the marketing side, that's really creative. Yeah. So they do kind of get really excited about kind of getting all the marketing stuff together. But it's the sales side that they tend to just, it's almost like a dirty work. Right?
Yeah.
They don't want to get stuck into, this is such a beautiful thing that they're doing, and they've kind of, positioned it so lovely, and marketing, they've got all that stuff out there. But the last thing they want to do is pick up the phone and hear somebody tell them that their baby is ugly. All right. Then they don't want to hear somebody say to them, look, this really doesn't work for me, because their dream is that it works for everybody. So I spend a lot of time in sales. And as part of that, I then perhaps can take some success fee in terms of the number of sales we do, or business and so on. So so from that side of things, it kind of depends. What I have been doing since lockdown started over here, and we are still in lockdown 3. The revenge, it keeps on going, right? We've got no sort of, they mentioned February, but nobody really believes it. So we are here, and a lot of the face-to-face stuff and the kind of going around the business stuff I used to do has obviously changed. So what I've been doing, or what I've been really focused on over the last year or so, is getting everything online. So I've got an online course up there now. So if you go to the growthexecution.academy, then there's stuff up there all about how to launch your business. All right, that's obviously the first step. And I also have a membership club, and I also then have various bits and pieces. So there's a book coming out in a month or two, and things around that as well. So really, as I have been focused on different ways of working and finding and discovering different ways of getting my own business out there, obviously that's helped me to look at other strategies and other tactics for my clients as well.
One of the things I wanted to touch on today was you'd flagged that you have a section on your website to give away, intellectual property, IP, ideas, all that kind of thing, various tools and stuff like that. And I think for most people who are in marketing, who own a business, understand the idea of giving something away free of charge in order to attract someone's attention and capture someone's interest. From a small business perspective, what do you find works the best? Because there's 1,000 ebooks out there, and there's with limited resources and limited time, what can a small business do to attract those people in using content?
Right. So there's two things that I specifically focus on. All right. And the first of them is, and you've talked about ebooks and so on, but that's a really valid way of kind of releasing a lead magnet out there. But one of the things about that really needs to be in place is it needs to be really specific. So you need to think about the question that your clients ask you most often. All right. So what is that question? Is it how do I reach this particular audience cohort? Or is it so if it's a client of one of your marketing businesses, they might get asked, how do I get the maximum reach for money? Whatever that specific question is, that needs to be the title of your booklet or your little PDF or whatever, and you need to get as much, obviously, SEO juice behind that as possible. If you can think of a question that's slightly a bit off the wall, that's not necessarily being asked by that's not necessarily being serviced by many other people, that, of course, is brilliant too. But if you can get something that's really in your niche, right, that's really in your sweet spot, the thing that you are here to do, that answers the question that you are asked most often by your clients. So, for example, one of the things that we get often is about pricing. So how do I price my product? And that's something that's a little bit kind of to the side from the sort of mainstream, but it's something that we get asked all the time. So there's a lot of stuff that we put out there around that. So find that question, write something that is just a very straightforward sort of PDF that you can save up, and then you can make available on a landing page on your website. And that I have found continues to be something that, people, I do it all the time. If I can't fix part of my, boiler or whatever, you search for stuff, right? You try and find an answer online. So there are people searching right now for the solution that you provide by asking the question that you are asked most often. Because if it's a question for your clients, it's a question for your next clients. So that, I think, is a really, really, really strong way of generating those inbound.
And I guess just to jump in there before you do the second one, I guess, I totally agree with everything you say there. And I guess one of the things I often say to clients is, often writing is a big challenge, especially for technical clients and people that are used to doing things with their hands. I know writing technically uses your hands, but but people who are on the tools and a job, sitting there writing something down is often is painful for them. So would you sort of say to people, you don't have to write these things yourself. You could go out and get contract copywriters, or I actually saw a site on the web the other day where you could buy ebooks already written, and I'll have to stick there whilst you're giving your second example. I might dig out that whatever that was, but it was people don't have to do it themselves, do they? They could find someone else to help them with this sort of thing.
That's true. So I would highly recommend that this is because this has to convert.
Yes.
All right. This has got, when people see that and read that and look at that, they've got to know that your competence, it shines through.
Yeah.
Now, if writing is not one of your competencies, then don't worry about it. Go find the skill set that does that. It's the equivalent of, in my mind, it's equivalent of getting an accountant. I am absolutely terrible at doing all the accountancy stuff, and I get somebody in to do that because that just wastes my time and makes me sad. So get somebody in who does this stuff for a living, somebody who's really, really good at it, and get them to help you out on it. And yes, again, we're thinking about sort of cash constrained businesses potentially. If you know somebody who's really good at it, then ask them. But certainly don't screw them. Don't present something out there that is going to be the first thing that people see about you or learn about you or know about you that isn't doing justice to what you're here to do and the people that you're here to serve, because those people will necessarily then become slightly alienated. I mean, the other idea with that is then to potentially go down the second route, which is much more about it's a questionnaire. All right, so it's kind of like a scorecard, and I don't know if you use these in your business as well, but I've found one that's really good. It's Typeform, and again, there's a free version of it as well as a very low cost monthly fee for it. And Typeform, Typeform, Typeform.com, it's a system that's out there. It's just really good. And what you can do, and what I've done is created a growth execution scorecard, which essentially asks 30 odd questions, and it takes like 2-3 minutes. Yeah. All you do is you go in and you just it pings you a question, you add this question, pings you a question, add the question. Really simply, really straightforward. It's all branded up. And at the end of it, it can present a score against something. So, for example, within my site, within Growtion.com, it is about how well you're growing. Right. All right, so it's relevant to my business. So I'm here to help you grow. Yeah. It gives you a score of how well you're doing. And then it's supposed to be a bit of fun. Right? It's not like a serious it's not school grading or anything like that. But it's fun. People give me loads of data on the back of that, and then I am able to then approach them with full information about what their business is like, how they think it's going. We ask questions like, do you enjoy running teams? If somebody asks you at a party what you do, what do you say? Just fun stuff to keep it sort of emotionally relevant as well as factual. Yeah. And what that then does is that gives us some really high quality leads that you can then go and really start to help people straight off the bat. So those two things I think are genuinely really useful.
I presume with someone filling in a questionnaire, I've always found the challenge to be they've got to want to fill in the questionnaire. And I know that seems like the most obvious statement ever, but dragging someone to fill in a questionnaire kicking and screaming is not a pleasant experience. People won't do it. People don't fill in questionnaires if they don't want to fill in questionnaires. Do you, where you are at in your business, are you you kind of almost feels like you're waiting for people to be motivated to want to change or to want to grow their business? Is that the case, or are you sort of finding that? I don't know where I'm going with this question. I know where I'm going with this question, but I can't formulate it in my head properly. But I'm sort of saying, are you waiting for those people that are motivated to make change to come to you, or are you pushing that questionnaire out in front of people and saying, why don't you have a serious think about this?
Great question. So I have, and within Growtion, we've got a lot of different assets that we push out to different cohorts of people. All right. So one of the main ways that we advertise the fact that this scorecard exists, or the fact that we've got a booklet, three launch essentials. Right. So what are the three things that you need to do to launch your business? And it is three of these elements. So every single day since lockdown started, actually, every in the UK on the 23rd of March, we release a growth execution tip.
Right.
All right. So it is a little bite size. It's about 250, 300 words every day. A little video as well, like a 45 second video of me. And the intention of that, so there's like 250 of them. And the intention of that is to identify those that open it. All right. So I've got a list of people who have registered to receive these over time. And we send it out. And every single day, it's opened by 500 people, 500 businesses. And what they do is they just read this little tip. And within that, we embed the idea of the scorecard, or we embed the idea of the launch handbook. And more what we're doing is we are going out to the places where these people hang out. So my core audience is entrepreneurs, founders, growth leaders. All right, so people who are interested in growing their business. Now, where do they hang out? There are startup groups on Facebook, on LinkedIn. There are forums for people like this. There are you can refer people to refer people. If you put some incentives within these growth tips. Every week I do a newsletter. There's a podcast, just like yourself, that goes out every week as well. So there's a lot of work around this idea of growth execution. So actually executing growth, rather than just theory, this is some top tips about how you can actually get on and grow your business. And that necessarily surfaces a load of people for whom this is the answer to their challenge. Again, growing a business is really, really hard. Yeah. And there is a zillion different ways of doing it and a zillion different ways of not doing it. And what we try and do is map some core skills into individual businesses that are actionable, not just this kind of airy-fairy, we're going to consult with you, we're going to give you some ideas, and away you go. So that this is doing it with you rather than do it yourself.
Just to take a step back to that, to something you said right at the start there about those 6 founders sitting around a table and you trying to work out what was different there than perhaps other iterations of business and other things that you'd seen fail in the past. What do you think was different out of that? What suddenly made that a success? And we all know there's no silver bullet for these things, but normally there's a couple of things in there that you go, here's some things that we did differently this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. There is, but for better or worse, and of course there's different individuals, and of course, they come with different skill sets and different attitudes and all that sort of thing. But if there's one thing that is the key thing for me, it is that everybody knows what the mission is.
Right.
All right. And that from the founder or founders to the senior team, to the team on the ground, to, in fact, and including the investors, to the customers, to the significant others of the individuals within the business as well, everybody gets it.
Yeah.
And what that does is a number of different things. So first of all, that mission has to be something that's quite important to everybody. All right. One of the things about setting that out and articulating it really, really coherently and repetitively is that it allows people to buy in and also dissuades those that are going to be a problem. Right. The last thing you need on a team of 6 is one person who's quite disaffected by it and just turns up to take the money, because one person out of 6 is just a lot of a percentage of the business. So you need everybody dovetailing in behind this kind of core mission, and that mission needs to be obviously solving a problem. All right, and the question that I get clients to answer first thing all the time, and is actually I think the question there as well, is Why are you solving this problem? And it's this why. All right. So why am I solving this problem? And just like the initial start of our conversation here is, what we're here to do at Growtion, which is to help SMEs to grow. What you need to do in your business, everyone needs to do in their business, is be really, really clear about why they're what the problem is and why they're solving it. And that gives permission to people to really get behind it, and allows them to use that discretionary effort. So the times when they're sitting, of an evening and have got the laptop open in front of them and are working without direction, but actually working on the same problem. It's those moments where somebody else, where you as a founder perhaps aren't directly involved, but your mission and the articulation of that has helped this person to be incentivized to do it themselves. It's really that kind of almost solves everything else. Yeah. If you can get that team together, and it's hard, and people are people, and sometimes they change, and sometimes things, go awry and stuff like that. But at its heart, a really good business, in particular startup or an SME, I have observed, the ones that are really successful are the ones that get that mission right, get that why right, and then engage with those for whom that mission is also important. From an investor point of view, a team point of view.
How do you... I guess anybody watching this who's got an existing business and wants to grow, and it might be in a traditional marketing, a traditional marketplace, or they might be a business that's been done 1,000 times before. They might be a plumber, they might be a builder, they might be an accountant. How is that? How are they presenting a mission statement to inspire people? I often find that a challenge, certainly with accountants. But yeah, how are they motivating? How do you motivate people with something like that?
Yeah, so I think it's not always, although it is sometimes, but perhaps rarely. The very specific, right, we have this big sign up in the office, and it's a kind of big call to arms sort of poster with, where everybody has to chant it at the beginning of every day. It's not for me quite that. What it is just this repetitive and constant, observation and articulation of what we are all here to do. So if you go back to prime location days, for example, what we were there to do was to aggregate. Some of it's not. It doesn't sound particularly sexy or anything like that, but we were there to aggregate these luxury properties, enable people to discover their dream homes. From luxury perspective, really easy, right? So everything we did was about, right, we want people to be able to find their dream luxury home really easy. And that just means that everything becomes a lot more straightforward. Even when you're making like tiny decisions about, how you save data into a database, or whether you use a database, how are you going to approach these sales conversations? What is it that you are looking for in a customer as much as what they're looking for in you? So if you are, a plumber or an accountant or something like that, then the reason that you've set this up and the reason you founded this business is something probably quite visceral, something quite deep. It might be that you want to provide for your family, of course, but you can do that in any other million different ways, right? The reason that you set this business up is you probably want a bit of autonomy. You probably want you probably worked in businesses that you don't like, and that's probably a good touchstone as well, is actually finding the reasons why you are now in this position is because you want to fix all that stuff, right? So you want to build a business that, I don't know, perhaps is ethical, or is everybody works at home, or is just like a lot cooler than the accountancy firms you've worked in the past. Whatever that is, find a way of articulating it to yourself. Yeah. You don't have to put it out there, like I said, on a poster. Understand it, really know it, sit and think about it, and we spend a lot of time on whiteboards and kind of really poking people when they say words that sound like they're getting close. It's like, right, well, is that really it, or is there something else behind it? Because genuinely, once you have worked that out, and once you sit there with it and just go, do you know what that is, what I'm here to do? It's not like, you're going to necessarily change the world, and, you're going to charge forward with 10,000 people behind you, but it is in your little corner of the world with your skill set and your team around you and your goal in life. By articulating that and by knowing that deep, then you're able to, it becomes evident, and it becomes something that your other other people working within the business can see. And there will be certain people potentially that you can really talk to about it and be very honest and open about it, or there will be people that that they get a broad understanding of what it is that you're doing, and perhaps you don't need them to buy in that much. But certainly for businesses where you've got co-founders, where you have got investors, where you are asking a lot of your family, I would also suggest is probably quite a good thing for them to understand what the real deal is. I think that having that in your head and being able to at least acknowledge it to yourself is going to be something that is really important, and also will really supercharge your growth, because it just means that so many questions.
It's interesting you mentioned the word mantra early on in that piece there about you don't have to have a mantra that everyone chants, and I've read a lot. There's a book by Daniel Coyle, I think, and I can not really be able to remember the book now, but he talks about the success of teams that he'd sort of investigated over the years. People like the Marines. There was a big restaurant company in New York. He'd studied the All Blacks, and he'd said in all of them, all of those ultra successful teams, they all had exactly what you've said, which is that they've all had this kind of mission statement. They all know what it is that they're there to achieve. And he spoke, when he spoke about the restaurant company, he said even the busboys who were collecting the plates, all the way down to them up to the head chefs, they all knew the mission of this big restaurant chain. Everybody knew it. But he also made the point that some of them do have that mantra. There's a chant. There's a at the start of the day, and he goes, it feels weird when you're looking at it from the outside. It feels like you're in some sort of cult, which is essentially what it is. But where you're sort of what you're talking, and it's funny. I had the conversation with a lady who I was coaching the other day, who was talking about starting an MMA fighting gym. She was 30 odd years old. She'd been fighting since she was 10. She could have beat the shit out of me in a heartbeat, probably using one arm. But I said to her, what we need to do, whatever we do, we need to create a mascot for your gym that we create. And she had something like, not the fighting fairy or something like that. She had one in her head. I said, we need to create a mascot that we can get a big sticker, a big decal, the size of the width of my arms, on the wall by the entrance. And you need to say to everybody, every time they come to the gym or the training facility, they have to high five the fairy on the way in and on the way out. So you're not allowed to come in and do any training or any fighting unless you've high-fived the fairy.
Love that.
And it was little things like that I go, those are the, yes, you can have a mission statement and have everyone talk about it, and that's super important. But those little mantras, those little repetitive reminders of what you stand for are, aren't hard to do. A sticker of a fairy that you high-five isn't hard to actually get done. It doesn't need, none of this needs to be overly complicated. It just needs to be thought about.
That's right, and I absolutely agree. I think that the mantra side of things can work, right? And you look at Hacker, you look at various things that really get people motivated, get people kind of really intensely emotionally charged. And that I think is what a mantra does. But that's not for every business. Some businesses you look at some of the other WeWork, for example. There was always this kind of like mysticism and you say kind of cultishness around him and around the founder. And that can be true in various businesses, and perhaps in some of the really hyper-growth businesses, it's almost a kind of prerequisite. People have to almost leave a certain amount of their critical faculties at the door, because they've got to just believe and not ask questions.
Tesla would be the number one example.
Yeah, exactly. Just believe in the Musk. Just keep going. Don't question. And I think that's and that can work. And in some businesses, you see that being a real success for them. and I think your idea is perfect as well. You know, so seeing those clues and seeing and particularly physically interacting with them with a high five, I think is great. And that will work for businesses where that founder and where that energy is there, for that to be a really core part of the brand, really, of what people are here to, what they buy into. For others, it will be just, you know, being able to, you know, on a weekly basis, seeing in the accountancy gazette, you know, a panel of Ask the Accountant, you know, to just, you know, that core belief that basically this is an accountancy that's focused on, you know, agony, uncle, aunt type things and stuff like that, you know. So whatever those clues, those cues are, whether they are visual, whether they are, you know, whether it's a bit of music, you know, at the start of every day, or, you know, whatever it is, it's just reinforces the brand values of the business and what the business is here for, and enables everybody to repeatedly buy in, because that's what you're asking people to do, whether they high five the fairy or whatever. You are essentially inviting them to commit once more to what it is that this stands for, and that's really the key thing, and that's what makes these businesses grow.
The beauty of high-fiving a fairy, Mal, is you are now going to be thinking about high-fiving a fairy for the rest of the day. And
do you know what? I'm trying to work out how I can actually get that into my day somehow every day. So like brilliant.
Before we finish up, I want to ask you about the thing on the board behind you, because for those of us that were born in the UK and did A-level chemistry, that's kind of given me a nasty flashback, Mal. Is that your business table of elements? Is it, or what can't I see in there? Is it bigger than that? Is there more?
It is. So there's 15 of them, and I'm only going to show you a little bit. Yeah. So these are the 15 elements of business growth, as organised by us here at Growtion. And there's 5 in product, up in the top right, which is the dark blue, product concept, product design, service, pricing, USP. Then we've got 5 in marketing, and then we've got 5 in sales. So the idea is that this is a very visual guide, and you talked about Fairy, right? This is a very visual guide where I am consulting with clients on Zoom or whatever, and we diagnose which part of this they are perhaps challenged with most right now. So, you know, perhaps it is that their marketing brand is not the thing that they're doing as well, or marketing intel, or the content side of things isn't out there, or whatever. But yes, it is. It's deliberately put together in the way of a periodic table, to suggest that there is a formula to this. There we are. So this is throwing you back to your A-level chemistry, and that by actually having I'm just sitting down. It's getting later. You're nearly at the end of the day. I'm just about to start. So yeah, it is basically that there is a formula and a structure to successful business growth, and that this can help you to get. So that's all it is. You talked about
and I guess
visual cue side of things.
The other thing I like about it is that you've taken what is, I mean, I guess within those 15 elements there, none of it is radically, you know, unique. It's essentially what you've done is productized your knowledge and put it in a nice, presentable, memorable format that makes you stand out. And I guess a part of what you do in product with other clients is to say, you know, all that knowledge that you have in your head or that your team has, we need to create something here that's memorable, that's going to stick in people's heads. And certainly a periodic table of business elements is fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. And you're absolutely right. You know, whatever business your listeners are in, it's very difficult to find something brand new. All right, all you're really doing is frequently doing the same stuff as many others, but you're doing it in your own way, and you're doing it with your own kind of set of priorities, really. So what if you can find a way of representing that perhaps draws on things that people are familiar with elsewhere, and suggest to them something else. So again, you know, this suggests formulaic, it suggests procedure, it suggests that there are some kind of laws that you can follow. Then that's something that you can harness in the pursuit of your own goals. So yeah, I genuinely spend a lot of time with clients focusing on, right, is there something you can draw on that's out there already that is going to add to your brand and to your proposition.
And I think the thing you just touched on there, that there's a formula. Formulas have end results. You know, when you calculate a formula, when you go through a process, there is an end result. And looking at those 15 blocks, you sort of go, if I do those 15 blocks, my business will achieve whatever upwards growth. Right, yeah. Whereas without those, you're kind of, you're taking a journey from, John O'Groats to St Ives. I knew I'd get that in somewhere. But you're doing it without a map, and essentially what you're giving people is a 15 block map.
Exactly that, and and also for so many other ways it can help. So we can diagnose what are the 3 things that you are most challenged by in this, right? So you may be doing social media marketing distribution really, really well, but actually you don't know who you're talking to, so your marketing intent is wrong. So you're distributing some stuff out, brilliant, but it's not getting to the right people. So, all of those things kind of interlock as well, and you can kind of do some really cool stuff around that as well. So, then you go to the scorecard and it will score all of these. So it's that level, basically, is actually, can we give people confidence? Business growth is really hard, right? Really hard. And it's, many businesses don't make it. But actually, are there some things that you can deliver to people that give them extra confidence? Because, confidence is obviously part of it as well. And that are going to help them get there and get there.
Mal, thank you very much for your time. I know it's early in the morning there. I know the rest of the family is still asleep.
Pleasure.
And it's pretty dark and cold outside, and it's 28 degrees here and sunny and warm, and it's fantastic.
Oh, don't really?
Which is why I left that country in the first place, Mal, because I didn't want to be cold anymore.
Yes,
we will leave you. Is there enough?
Relate to that.
Is there enough snow to go and make a snowman outside? That's my only question.
I would. So me and the kids were out there yesterday. Yes, making snowmen. We think there should be some more today. Right. So yes, we're homeschooling, and then getting out there.
That sounds like the worst thing I could ever think about. But I'm sure you're going. You're going to enjoy it, mate. Thank you very much for being on. I really appreciate it, and good luck. Last question. I forget to ask everybody now. If people want to get hold of you, what's the best way of reaching out to you? Where are you most responsive?
Thanks, Simon. So if you go to growtion.co, so growtion.co, click on the services section there, then there's loads and loads of stuff. You can kind of get the tips, you can get the newsletter, all that sort of stuff. It's all there. Loads of stuff free. You can have a look at that, and you can reach out to me through there too.
Awesome, mate. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Real pleasure. Enjoy it. Take care. Thank you.